Sorry about that, everyone. So today, welcome to Sensei's Ask an Expert for October. Our topic today is using AI to reduce risk on your future projects through predicting the future. Next, please. Okay, just a bit of housekeeping today. If you could please remain on mute throughout the remainder of the presentation, that'll be amazing. But if you do have a question, just press the raise your hand tool or use the chat function. Perfect, thank you. So our presenter today is Ryan. So Ryan, I'll give it to you for the rest.
Thank you very much, Ellie. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Wednesday, almost the end of the month. We're going to go through AI today, and we're going to go through various ways of using AI to actually look at de-risking your work. Not only going to be about risk, but it's about de-risking things generally, the process. So we're going to start off with just making sure that you have access to all the right information, you're able to understand your frameworks, etc. We're going to make sure you're able to look forward and see any related risks out there, any lessons that someone learned years ago that you should know about. We're going to look at AI giving you some forward warning, so giving you a flag to say, hey, we think you're going off track in terms of your status. We're also going to show you a way of not being dependent so much on other people and maybe getting secondhand information, and a way that you're able to go in and actually find your own information using the AI. And we're going to talk a little bit just about what happens to project managers if we have all this AI in place. Do we still need the project manager? Yes, there is the actual answer. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually bring up a quote, and the slide was actually created by a friend who's very into the AI. And we are looking at a slide here about a Spanish philosopher who's studied in the US, and his quote is everywhere in the world. You know, it's on monuments all over, including in Auschwitz. And it's really true in that if you can't remember the past, you're going to repeat it. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at how we can use AI to make sure that you are able to get an insight into the past. What has your organization done in the past? How have you managed projects in the past? How have you managed your own projects in the past? And can we use that as a way to look forward to understand what's about to happen? So what is project management? Let's start with that. Well, project management is a lot of things. We won't define it, but what it really boils down to is it's integration management. So you may recognize this. This is the PMI's approach. So we have all the different knowledge areas, but they boil down to use a project manager doing certain things, going through a process to bring it all together, and hopefully use what you brought together to look forward to see into the future. So what does a project manager really do? What should they do? They should be looking forward into the future. So we want to see how we can get the AI to do that for us. So what is a project manager? What should they do? They should really be learning. If we think of what is this integration management all about, it's about learn what's going on. Learn from the past. Use that to plan. And as you learn more, use that to replan. Look ahead. Project manager should be that crystal ball that can see the future. That's the true value here. Once you can see the problems coming, communicate them, and you and people will react. This will lead to further learning, and you go around the cycle. If all you did is that as a project manager, you're actually going to do a pretty good job. Okay. The rest of it is actually just, your risk register and your schedule, etc., all just tools to help you with the cycle. So if we think of that as project management, it's about learn what is going on and what has gone on and what other people have experienced, and deal with it to replan and foresee and step around problems. So let's try and define AI now. What is AI really? Now, again, AI can be many different things. One of the things that AI really does, if you look at another way of classifying all these different types of AI we see in the news, one is that AI helps us process and understand large volumes of data. So all that stuff we would love to learn as a project manager, well, can we actually find information out there, relate that information, and be informed about this? Can we build up knowledge? So what have other people done? What patterns are emerging within the organization? This is the experience of an organization that's possibly been around for decades. How can we get that into a project manager? Well, AI can do that for us. Can the AI then take what it's learned and actually start to predict? Can it forecast? Can it generate new information? We can look a bit at that somewhat today. And then can it help us communicate, and can it give us a very handy way of interacting with itself and with all that data it's found and related for us? And this really is where we use things like Microsoft Copilot, where we start surfacing this within Altus itself, and we will look at both of these today. So AI, a different view of AI is that it is about figuring out your large volumes of data, about learning, about helping you see into the future. Project Manager is about keeping track of all the large volume of data, about figuring out what's going on, learning, and seeing into the future. So AI has a natural fit to the project management cycle. But before I sell you on AI, okay, there is always the question of, do you really need it? I was at the ARPM conference last week. If any of you were there, hello. Hopefully I saw you. I don't know if I did. One of the questions that came up in the AI workshop on the first day, on the Monday, was that the main thing people want AI to do is automate repetitive tasks. Well, do you really? What they're looking for is a way to do notifications, a way to have dashboards and reports created for them, a way to have workflow and governance. Well, you actually have tools today that can do this. You don't need AI to do that. Because if you're using Altus, obviously in Sensei's case, you have a tool that can do this right now. You may just not be using it for that. What AI is really doing is allowing you to handle more data than a human can handle, allowing you to learn from that data, allowing you to find the related concepts in that data in a way that a human can't easily do. So we want AI to take it further. We don't just want to automate the boring stuff. We want AI to actually do things that we cannot do right now, okay? Not the things that we just haven't used the tools for. So let's actually start going through a few examples. Right in the beginning, maybe we need AI to help us figure out how to start a project, and preferably not go and do it the wrong way and annoy the PMO, okay? So let's not have everyone going off doing their own thing because I didn't know how, okay? So what could we do? Well, we could look to things like Microsoft Copilot. And what Microsoft Copilot does, conceptually, is give us a way to interact with a tool or with data, which could be from PDFs, from Word documents, from Excel, from systems like Altus, and interact using language. So we're able to type in, you're not reliant on, do I remember where the project management framework was in the first place? It's 5,000 pages long. Do I remember where everything is in it and how to understand it all? Maybe I don't need all of that. Maybe I can use Copilot, surfaced in something useful like Teams, to give me a way that I can type, I can talk to it. You can actually verbally talk to it now. And it's bringing all this together, and it's figured out the meaning within it, or the semantics within it. So it's become an assistant for me. I now have a process expert that can help me with process and can help me with how to use Altus and help me figure out my policies without needing to actually go and read all this myself. So let's have a bit of a look at what this would actually look like. So where I am here is I am in Teams. So we're in Teams and we have let's call it a Teams bot. We've called it the Sensei Project Management Framework Guideline Demo. And I want to start a project, and I could too, you can actually see one that I've done already. What type of projects are supported by the Project Management Framework. And it will now go off. And what it's doing is it's looking at a lot of information in terms of, think of PDFs through our project management framework. It will show you in a second. It looks at Altus as well. And here we go, it tells us what we can actually do, okay? Then I could say, how do I create a project in Altus? So now I'm even too lazy to go to Altus where there is online training. I could always go and look at that, watch a video, but no, let's get the AI to do it for me. So what it's doing is it's going and looking at all the AI, all the Altus training information. We're going to get someone to just mute. Ellie, do you want to just go and mute people in there? So what it's done is it's come up, and it's actually gone and looked at all the Altus information and given that to me. Okay, so it tells me step by step what to do. And we're able to actually set this up. I won't keep going into it, but we can start telling, I can get it to create a project from here. I can get it to create a risk, etc. as I go. Now I look at this and I think, well, this is actually quite a lot of work. I don't want to do all of this. So maybe I need to, I need to go on holiday. What is the long service leave policy? So I want this to go a bit wider. So I want to get into the HR information as well. And this should work. I didn't try and test this one before, but we use this internally. Okay. So I just give an example of how we can start using Copilot across all of our data. There we go. So it's now come up and you'll see a Teams pop-up appears there as well. There's different ways of interacting with it. And I can drill deeper and deeper and deeper, and I can get into my information. So this sets me up on the right track. Now, so I've got myself a project, or I've figured out how to do it. I've followed the right process in an easy way without reading a 5,000-page document. I now want to, cool, I know how to do it. I'm ready to start. So should I just jump in? Well, maybe I need to think about things. And we had a lot of questions come through, so thanks for those who sent questions in. One of the questions is how can we mitigate the risk on these? How do we start thinking about that risk in advance? So if we think about a risk process, it's always the same thing. Humans do the same thing over and over in projects. So to figure stuff out, we need to plan, we need to identify risks, analyze it, strategize what we're going to do it, monitor and control overhead. Well, what this really amounts to is we need experience and we need access to information. If we have experience of how we've done it in the past, how the people who've been here for 50 years know how to, they've dealt with these risks before, what they're actually doing. Maybe I'm a new project manager. I need someone who's had a few years experience to help. If I have access to that and access to information, I can more readily or more easily respond to my risk or foresee my risks. And to do that, this is where AI comes in perfectly, because we could have a risk library. We could have all our past risks. We could have lessons. We could have issues all sitting in something like Altus. And this is embodying years of experience in there. So maybe I can actually get AI to look at these, look at my existing projects, come up with, I think these are the risks you should be thinking of, or I can even create the risks for you, but you can still be in charge. The robot's not quite taking your job, and it lets you then look at it and say, yep, I'm okay with it. And the way it's done that is it's looked at your risk library, look at templates for common risks. It could be looking at wider information of your industry to find what risks you're potentially missing. And it could also go further to say, look, let's step away from risk. Let's think about lessons. Let's think about things that have become issues, etc. And I bring all this together. I present this to you so that you as a human are able to then verify, like, yeah, I agree with this, let me go forward, but thank you because you saved me the effort of thinking of all this stuff from scratch. So we're going to look at a sort of related example on this now. Now, some of you will have seen this one before, but right in the beginning of a project, so we have a proposal in this case. This could be surfaced. So what I'm showing you now is an example of something that can be surfaced anywhere in Altus. So we have a proposal. And I want, we're telling it all about it, what the problem is, what the benefits are, etc. All this information flows into a project, a description of a project. But before I even start that project, I want to know if this thing's been thought out. So I want to de-risk it before I even start it. So have I thought of everything that I should be thinking of? So what it's doing is it's going and looking at my, in this case, proposal, could be done on a project itself. It's giving me some general feedback on it. And it's also then saying, hey, there are some related risks that you should think about. Sorry, so in our risk library or on other projects, we have some risks you should think about. We have some lessons you should think about. So these may not be risks, but they happen to someone. So maybe they should be risks. So you could then say, yep, I agree with that, I agree with that, and then I could actually go and hit the button, it will then clone it across. So we're able to then say, work backwards off those past lessons, they're going to become your risk. Or these risks, I'll take them as they are, I'll copy them in. So this starts saving you the effort of dealing with templates because it's doing it for you. It saves you needing to have years and years and years worth of experience. because it's essentially looking at everything that's been done in the past by all these different people and saying, based on your project and wider what's going on in the industry and whatever you feed it. And we have a way in that you could write out a long essay essentially on how we deal with risk. And this is what our risk appetite is. This can then be fed into the AI so it knows how it should think. It then starts with this and gives you that starting point to get going. So let's cut the risk down before we even start the actual work.
Hey Ryan, sorry to cut in. We just have a question
Yeah.
you want to ask now in the chat from Lance.
Yeah, go for it.
So it's with this approach, does that mean that we validate the AI curation of historical data about risk and we focus on black swan events and risks?
So what it's basically meaning is that you should have more time to look out for the black swan type of events. Okay, so the big bad risks and things, because you spend less time hunting up risks, looking in risk libraries, in missing common risks. So it's doing more of that for you. It doesn't replace you. You're essentially, I think the word curate was used. You can curate it. Some people may not want to do that. They may just want the AI to inject a risk directly into their project. A lot of people would like to see it and then say, yeah, you've actually come to a good point. I'm going to rewrite this, or I'm going to make this very specific for me, or I'll merge those 3 risks into one, etc. But yeah, so that question is exactly right. Remove the grunt work, remove the noise, remove this. How much time do we have to spend doing the same stuff in a risk a meeting? We start to identify risks. It's always the same risks. Let the AI start doing this for us. But also, let's remove that surprise factor of, why didn't you think of this? Oh, so your project is sinking now. We pay you $500,000 a year. Why did you not think of this in advance? You were the PMO. Why didn't you guys warn us about this stuff? And you're like, well, I don't know. I just got here. I'm like, well, now I have the combined experience going back, years and years and years of the organization, all the projects, which means I can curate, I can select. I don't have to think of, I can't fit all in my head. No one can do that. Contractors come and go, etc. All their knowledge is captured. As soon as they type it in, it's captured and we can use that. They leave, doesn't matter, because we've got all their knowledge in there. Okay, now, so these
Sorry, Ryan, we just have a follow-up question on that. It said, what about mitigation actions? That's more important to me, from Ben.
So mitigation actions, I'm not showing that today, but the creation of mitigation actions is absolutely a thing that can actually be done. So if you, for example, I'll show a little bit of it today. So we're dangerously going off script during a presentation, a demo. For you playing at home, you should never do this. Okay, so I need to just find my project. So the short answer is, what we have, the approach we take is that we can use the brain of the AI essentially and the access to all the information to be able to be surfaced in different places. And one of them is, it's not just help me think of the risk. It can be help me think further about the risk. So for example, do we have one in here? So here, mitigation plan. So I'm actually able to, is this turned on? There we go. Okay. So what this is now going to do is it's going to go in and it's going to think of some mitigation for us. There we go. So it's actually come up and said, hey, I think this is what you should do. Now, to forestall what the next question is, this can be done in a generic sense, that it can be, hey, the wide world kind of thinks, the internet thinks this is how you should deal with the stuff, down to specifically based on our risk framework, information we've given it and how we like to manage risk, how we deal with mitigation, our risk appetite, etc. Examples of past projects, how have people done this in the past. It can then come up with that plan. You can then start editing it and you can then curate that. So you're able to then go and see what you want to change, etc. So yes, this is a very good example of how that can actually be done. Okay, any cool questions, call out. We will have heaps of time at the end here. There were lots of questions, so you're going to get like 20 minutes solid for questions at the end. So we'll let people unmute themselves and go through questions then. Now, what we've looked at so far really is using AI to understand all that past information that's been put in to make us sort of like experts. But so it's doing things like, hey, don't forget about these risks, or helping us with a mitigation plan. If we look at another type of AI, which is now looking at the past itself and looking at the trends more so than the information. So what we've looked at so far could say, hey, based on your type of project, I think you should consider these risks. The next piece can be based on how you are going on your project, I think you're going to be in trouble. So this is now looking at all our information. So we think of all the information in there. We have schedules, we have resources, we have finance, all the status updates. We need to make sure all this data is giving us a complete view of the project. So from an AI perspective, sometimes you've got to do a lot of work on your data before it can actually happen. So does all our data tell us the total complete story of everything? And can we get to all the history of all those projects? Okay, so let's assume that we actually can. We need to realize that this stuff changes over time. So project's never static. People are doing status updates all the time. And as this information on a project changes, we start seeing this type of thing. So our project could be going through a pattern. So it's ended up red. By looking behind it at all the status, well, this project kind of started off bad, got green, then went amber again, then was green for a while, then went amber. It's kind of gone up and down a bit. Is this an indication that, you know, you're going to end up as red? You're on your way there. We can start seeing the pattern emerging over here, okay? So based on the patterns in work, can we actually see if there's a problem? So this is using the AI to learn off the statuses on projects and from the completed project at the end. So it can look at all those RAG statuses as they emerge over time. It can look at what you in the post-implementation reviews have done. So have you gone and said, you've looked at a project at the end, said, look, this one was good, this one failed, this is actually the problems we've got. And it can take all of that and it can bottle that knowledge. So it's able to actually say, well, based on the humans who know what's going on, deciding these projects succeeded or failed, for whatever reasons they've chosen, it may not be what the system thinks. Just because a project's gone beyond budget, for example, doesn't mean it was a failure, okay? So it depends on how you truly in your organization are defining success and failure. It's able to look at the past patterns, so essentially looking at how all of these patterns emerge in your status, and it's then able to say, I'm giving you a warning. I can see how this is happening. You're going there. You're going towards red. I'm going to, this is based on stuff you can't even see in Altus. It's based on generally everything that's just happening in the organization. So what it would give you, and I'm just, this all happens this is a machine learning approach. It very much happens behind the scenes. So I can't actually demo this very easily, but I can show you the end result. And the end result is this, a dashboard that is giving us a couple of different things. So those of you using Altus, you're like, yep, it's the normal dashboard. Yes, it is. So we've got all our projects and our current status. This is the current status, though. So my current status can be anything. It could be green, but it's been going red, amber, red, amber, red, amber for the last 6 months. Does that mean I'm really green? Like, am I about to just go red and stay there? Or I've been going sort of, started off red, been red for a while, come down. What is the past telling me about what's about to happen in the future? Well, the AI is actually able to do a prediction for us. It can say, well, look, you're fine. Based on the past projects that have been successful, you look like you're going to be successful. It could say, no, you're looking like red. This one over here, you're looking at a couple of these projects actually, we think you are going to end up with a red status over here. You're not here yet, but we think you're actually going to get there. Like this one, solid green. The AI thinks, nah, there's something going on in the past. You may be green across the board today, but have you just made everything green? What has the last year's worth of status reports actually been? So I'm picking up on the patterns there, and I think that based on past experience, you're going to end up green. So let's look closer at this. So this gives us this forewarning that something could be happening. It's not giving you the exact reason or the answer as to what is going to go wrong. It's just picking up the pattern, and it means you're able to know what you should drill into a bit deeper. So you're able to go in and think, okay, I can now see that there's something, there's a warning here. I'll look closer. Or the PMO comes along and they look closer, have some discussions, they can see what's happening. At the same time, we can see some projects are green and the AI thinks they're fine, but based on the language in the project documentation, the status reports, this thing's not looking great. The sentiment on this project, and we can do emotion analysis as well. So the sentiment, the language is a bit negative on this. And as more data becomes available, we're able to start looking into meeting minutes and all these things to say, they've made the project green, but they are whinging all the time. These are not happy people on that project. That smells like something. So we should actually go and look a bit closer in terms of this. So we're able to use the AI to start looking ahead in other ways, in looking at patterns that are out there that we would not necessarily even be aware of as humans. And this is what this, from a machine learning perspective, is able to do. Okay, so it gives us that way to look really far forward. So we are now, our project's going ahead. We've seen that some can actually have a warning on them saying, maybe this project is going to go red. It's green right now. Look to this month, it's green. Because you're looking at a typical status report. A status report tells you what you see for this month only. It's a snapshot in time. You're not seeing the past months. The AI is looking at the past months and saying, you're green now, I think you're going to go red. You then think, okay, again, it's all about me getting access to information to reduce the risk on these things. So I'm the PMO now. I want to know, I'm a manager, I'm a stakeholder, I'm the sponsor. I want to know what's going on. So I want to find my own information. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to phone the project manager because they've made everything green. Probably can't get hold of them. They're going to send me a 500-page document that I don't want to read, or they're going to just, kind of blow smoke. I don't know what's going on. Why can't I go and figure out for myself what is actually going on? Let me save some time. So what I'm able to actually do is I could go back to Copilot and I could say, well, you can see a couple of different things that have been going on here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, check the status on this project. So I'm just doing it I'm going to talk to this thing in English or whatever my chosen language is. Okay. I'm going to keep it really nice and simple. So it's going in and it's going to come. You can see the one I did before. Unfortunately in Copilot, you can't clear the screen. So basically, it's telling me it's flagged as on watch. It's then giving me some specifics that I should actually look out for. So what is happening is, first of all, it's giving me easy access without me going hunting down the status report. It's giving me an interpretation of what's going on the project. So I can get a bit of expertise coming in here. And we can feed this thing with knowledge on, like, when you look at these projects, this is what you should focus on. This is what's important in this organization. Okay, so we're able to give you an informed insight into the project. We could say, okay, what are the risks? Well, again, I'm too lazy to go and look. I want this to come straight to me. Okay, so it can actually come up and give me all the risks. So in this case, it's just giving me the risk list. I can see some people have put some rubbish risks in over there. I could get it to do a bit of analysis of these as well. I can then think of it and think, okay, so now I'm looking at it and thinking, okay, I'm getting a view here. I'm phoning the project manager, and the project manager's like, it's fine. We're going to hit our dates. Don't worry about it. I think, yeah, okay. I'm not trusting you because the AI is telling me something, but I want to be delicate about it. I want to, accuse you because you've got to realize AI is like another expert in there. You have to let the people figure things out themselves as well. And you can't just say the robot said you bad and therefore you bad. This will not go down well with people. So I could just say, what is the critical path? I want to know a bit more about the schedule myself. So it's now going to go and look in the schedule and it's going to work out the critical path for me. And we're able to extend this even further. We're having a chat with someone recently around they want some help with planning their projects. So what they're looking at is when they build out their schedules, they want the AI to not just do things like critical path, but actually tell them that based on your project, you are missing certain tasks, or there have been 5 projects just like yours before. They did something that you're not doing, or you're doing something they didn't do. Why is that? So it's able to actually start doing this. But in this case, it's able to actually come up with the critical path for us and able to come up with some suggestions as to what we need to start doing about this. And it's really good at actually saying, look, you're late on this now, but what you need to do is think about kind of what's coming. It's not about this task is late, it's about the next task that's been impacted. So the AI is able to help us get insight into the project very easily and quickly without needing to navigate through a tool to do it. Now, yeah, the tool's easy enough to use, but this is even easier. The AI is able to give us sort of thoughtful insight in terms of what we should actually be focusing on, and able to sort of act as that expert. I've got sitting on my shoulder is a little PMO expert who's able to see everything and give me advanced information on what I actually need to focus on. Okay, now, so we're sort of coming towards the end here. I told you there'd be lots of time for questions. And one of the questions I know we're going to get is, this is all great, I love it. Is it safe? We are an organization that's really into safety. I started trying to build a slide up about how to talk about safety, and it got very big, so I kind of stopped when I got to the end of it, but it'll tell you a bit of a story. So first of all, are you cheap? Are you tight? Okay, because if you are, it's probably not safe. If you are not paying for your AI, it's probably not safe. So we do have some people who ask me, is it safe? I then ask them what they're doing. And within their organization, they're using some free AI out there and they're feeding information to it. Don't do that. Okay. Use, in our case, a Microsoft Azure-based AI service. This will make sure that your data stays in your tenant. It does not go out there, does not feed models out there, cannot be seen by the public. So if you are not cheap and you're willing to actually invest a very small amount of money into AI, it's probably safe. Now, the next thing is, does your organization even know what you're doing? We have, again, a lot of clients who are using AI. They've just started to use ChatGPT. They're using their personal account, the thing their kid uses for their homework. Well, even if they get, a paid version that's a bit more locked down, if the organization doesn't know about it, it's probably not that safe. Maybe there are some organizational standards. This is something Sensei started to help a lot of clients with, is how do I think about AI in the project management space, and should we lock it down? What are the policies around it, etc.? So if the organization doesn't know, or you are doing it for free, you must realize that if you're not paying for it, your data is the currency. You're paying in one way or the other. So you're giving data away. If you are paying for it, you've done it properly, and the organization knows about it, then yeah, you're probably safe. The next question is, now we get a bit more detailed, where is this AI? What service are you using? Is it in your tenant? So first of all, from a Microsoft perspective, when we think of things like Copilot, or we think of using Copilot in Altus, or using Azure AI's, Microsoft Azure's AI services, first of all, yes, it is safe. So everything I've shown you is completely safe. It's in your tenant. So I save it in your tenant. It doesn't leave your tenant. Data that you put into your tenant, it's in your tenant already. It's in Altus. It's in your Word document, it's in your Excel, it's in your email, already in your tenant, and stays in there and is safe. When the AI is trained, so to be able to do all these great things, it has to learn off data. Your data doesn't take part in that training, so it never goes out there into the world. They use the wide internet for that. If you went and stuck it onto your public-facing web page, sure, then might get used, probably wouldn't, but it could be. If you were just using your internal data to do your work, no, that does not get involved in the training by design, okay, so it doesn't work. You also have AI not just existing freely. It's not running around the organization helping anyone with anything. It fits under your existing security. So you have roles. You're allowed to see certain data and certain you're not. The AI respects that. So it's not just opening it all up, okay? And the last thing is the content can actually be parsed. So if Ellie, for example, comes in and starts asking questions about the secret planning the CEO is doing to take over the world or something, we can just cut that stuff out. If you come in and you start asking for adult-related content, etc., this gets grounded as well. So we can just cut that stuff out. So there are there are layers and layers of further security. But in Ellie's case, wouldn't get to that data because the role just doesn't allow for it. Okay, I would see what a project manager would see, but my boss, for example, would see more things than I would see, and the AI would know that. So it would just not give me that information. So the short answer is yes, AI is totally safe. Do it properly, though. Okay. If you want to know about doing it properly, give us a call. We can help you with that. Now, last thing is it going to take your job? I've included this in here because, and this, a lot of you would have seen the slide before, get asked about this all the time. So first of all, no, AI is not going to take your job. But someone using AI might take your job. Okay. If your job is simply just rehashing things in a spreadsheet, well, AI can start doing this. As you've seen, if your job is just memorizing the process, well, AI can actually read that process and guide you through it. What this means is you get freed up as a project manager. So there are kind of two things happening. There's technical changes to us coming. There's PMO and PM changes coming. From a technical perspective, we are able to actually start changing the way we work with tools. Like you saw a little bit of it there where I can have AI spread through the process. I can work through Copilot. So we have an AI transformation. We have also a need emerging for more of a systems-driven approach that is more about that curating. Someone mentioned the word in the question around curating. It's about curating. It's, if those of you remember Hell, locked Dave out of the airlock. For those of you a bit older, remember the old good movies. So we don't want that. We don't want the AI locking you out of the airlock, okay? We want people to still see it. We want the little flag to come up saying there's going to be, this project could be going bad, but it doesn't mean there's automatically all these tasks created and actions that happen that the AI goes and does without a human still thinking about it, okay? And then data, so those of you who are worried that you spend all day in Excel, well, the data is really, really valuable. So there will need to be a big focus on data going forward. From you as a person, what does it mean? Well, you don't have to deal with some of the grunt work. That's the whole thing. Let's get rid of the noise. And you can focus on strategy. So we're seeing project managers being more about people who focus on making sure their work is aligned to strategy, understanding the benefits more so than just can we get it done by a certain date. We see project managers and PMOs being change agents more so than just the process police or the governance police. So you really are a change agent, not someone who just sits and types into a spreadsheet or a schedule all the time. AI is not human. It will never be human. We will get to general intelligence and it still won't be human, okay? It can't form those relationships you can. Work gets done through relationships. And there's where you will get time to focus on those relationships without needing to type into the spreadsheet all the time. And it means that you can start focusing on EQ. So if you remember the old emotional quotient, this is still a thing. It's really important in getting work done. And these skills become more and more important going forward, less so that I know how to put a formula into Excel because I can use Copilot to do that. Okay? So you get freed from the noise and able to focus on the true high EQ activities. Okay, so this was just to take you briefly through some of the many things that AI can do around just trying to de-risk your project. At Sensei, we are working on an entire AI risk approach to essentially become like a risk expert that's embedded within your project and in your PMO. But this is a chapter, that's coming in the future. So reach out if you want to talk about it. But if anyone does have any other questions, I don't know, Ellie, if something's appeared in the chat. I can't actually see that.
Nothing
I'll have to
just
get you
yet.
to read that out. Anyone got any questions, feel free to put stuff in the chat or unmute yourself. More than happy to go through anything with you. Okay, if there are no questions and nothing in the chat, we will let you go early. So those of you in Queensland anyway can go and have a lunch, and the rest of you can go and have a late lunch because you've got daylight savings. I see a hand's gone up from Lance. Hello, Lance.
Hey, Ryan, how you doing? There's always one, right? So what do you see as the overlap between putting effort into kind of organizing the structured data within your project management system and the merging of that with your sort of unstructured data you kind of run us through with PDFs and Word documents and those type of things. How much focus should you sort of place on getting your house in order before you sort of launch into a PM-centric AI initiative?
Okay, so general rule of thumb is you're going to spend 90% of your time on that data. Even the unstructured data. So when we say unstructured, we're talking about all those, let's say we wanted looking at even risks. All the past risks are partly structured, but could be considered unstructured as well. We want it to maybe go even further to say, well, what about all the things not in Altus? All those Word documents out there, all those project business cases, all these things I want to understand. Things like Copilot are very good at actually going through all of that and forming a view of everything. But what we've found is that you still need to go in and then start telling it, okay, some of this we know is complete rubbish. Some of this is actually contradictory. We need you to actually exclude certain things. We may need to go through and actually start to clean some of that up. So yes, it's absolutely needed. This is not simply a case of install tool, turn it on, and it just gives me this amazing Star Trek computer experience where I have all my data. It's got everything. I can just talk to it. You will need to go through and remove some of that data that's probably just not good. You will need to potentially not rewrite data, but create data for specific things. So you could say, hey, I need you to look at all the old business cases because I want to know what we've learned in that. But when you start finding contradictory things or things that aren't clear, I've written something out here that's kind of like a model of everything you should know. If you were a new estimator, this is what I want you to know. So I want you to use that by preference. And then I want you to look at projects, for example, okay, and see what they've actually done within Altus. Build all that up and then give me an answer based on that. So yes, it's a combination of clean your data, find your data, clean your data, and then you need to set the AI up specifically with rules as to how it's going to use it and when it's going to use it. Okay, I see Douglas has asked a question. How do you utilize the history for AI if you potentially archive off some of your project data to minimize system data and size? Okay, so Douglas, not sure, I don't know exactly which organization you're from, but basically you need to question, do you really need to archive that data off? If you're in a tool like Altus, for example, you shouldn't need to do that. If you're in something like Project Online, yeah, you did need to do it in the past. More modern tools can handle large quantities of data, okay? So you've got a lot in there. Liz has just put an article from one of the Altus team. It's very good from Robert. It's actually a very good one talking about data. But basically, if you have archived it all off, you didn't delete it. You put it somewhere. Well, it's there, just another data source. If we use any of these AI tools, especially things like Copilot, are able to go to more than one source of data. All of these come together into one sort of new semantic layer. So effectively, it's creating a new database that the AI will use. It doesn't need to keep using the data. So even if all we can do is go to that archive data once, read it, process it, and build it into the AI model, that's okay. You can get rid of the archive then, at least from the AI's perspective, and you're able to then utilize it in there. So yeah, there are ways to actually do that. Okay, anyone else got any other questions? Have a think about AI, and if any of it is of interest to you, reach out. It is becoming easier and easier to actually deal with this, and is definitely something that is worth exploring. Even if all you want to do is just kind of have a bit of a chat about it, more than happy to help you with that. Otherwise, I will now just get the slides. Where did that go? Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Ellie, I will let you wrap it up.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Ryan. So we'll just let you know we'll send out the recording later this afternoon. If you're just coming in now, you didn't miss the whole thing. Another thing to keep an eye out is for our final webinar, which will be happening in November. So all the details for that will be coming out soon. So thank you very much for attending and have a lovely rest of the week.
Thanks all. Bye.
Thanks, Ryan and Ellie. Bye.